to Suits and Sneakers, a series featuring sage advice and candid conversations with seasoned leaders from diverse backgrounds and styles. I'm your host, Carrie Tuttle. With my guests, we deep dive into the areas of team engagement, motivation, and effective performance management. Get ready to be inspired and transform your approach to leadership. Please like, subscribe, or follow to be notified when episodes are released. Let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to Rebecca Wood. Rebecca helps leaders build their dream team so that they can stop putting out fires and start focusing on the bigger picture. She's the founder of Romeo Whiskey Consulting, a firm dedicated to giving leaders the energy, confidence, and buy-in they need to achieve their revenue goals, meet shareholder expectations, and grow their companies. With over 25 years of experience as a leader herself, as director at the Calgary Chamber of Commerce, as a consultant in the HR and leadership development space, and most recently as a national director of sales, she has lived the challenges her clients face and knows firsthand what it takes to build high-performing teams. What sets her apart is her unique background in acting and improvisational theater, which she weaves into facilitation, presentations, and her coaching style to create dynamic, engaging learning environments on topics such as building trust, values-based communication, navigating difficult conversations. We all need help on that, don't we? As well as networking and business development. Rebecca, welcome to Suits and Sneakers.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on what you experienced early in your career that led you to where you are now?
Sure, you bet. So this takes me right back to when I was in my early 20s and I received my first leadership role. I was a general manager for a visitors association, and was fresh out of university, a couple years working under my belt, and all of a sudden I was leading a team. I was reporting to a board of directors, and my voice was the voice of the association. That was pretty early on in my career to be able to have such an incredible opportunity like that. And I think that kind of really set my path into terms of wanting to be in leadership, wanting to be a leader, and supporting others in their growth in their careers.
Wow, that's really cool. And let me guess, they gave you zero training. They just kind of threw you in there.
Yes. Zero, absolutely zero training. I don't even know if I knew what a board of directors was at that point and how it all worked. They basically just handed me the keys to the association and said, run with it. I was managing a building. I was managing tenants in the building, as well as the association, all the marketing, all of the memberships in the association. And I had a really small team. There was 2 full-time employees and then we had summer students. But what I loved was that I was able to really take it and run with it. So I built an entire training program for the summer students. It was a visitors association, and how many students are actually visitors in their own town? So we had a really unique hands-on training program that I built for them to experience it through the eyes of a visitor so they could be more informed to talk to people coming into the association. And I got to apply for grants. I got different projects on the go, did some work with the territorial government. Like it was really incredible to have such a runway, but yeah, no training. And believe me, I messed up. It was trial by fire. And, I look back at the members of my team and I'm like, please forgive me for anything that was just not aligned.
Well, I'm sure they appreciated that vulnerability and that ability to know your strengths and weaknesses and that kind of thing. So, what took you to the Chamber of Commerce? Because I know there's a bit of a journey there too.
Yes. So that was a roundabout way. I worked up north and then I had worked in BC, and my husband's actually from Calgary. So we came back to Calgary and I had been working. I'd just gone back to work. I had my second baby and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, if work was right for me with 2 young kids. And when I was growing up, my dad was the president of a chamber of commerce. So I kind of knew like what the whole vibe was there. And they had a position for a membership person. And so I applied. I thought, I love my city, I love business, and I want to be a part of this. So I got hired and I became an individual producer. I was not a leader. I was solely responsible for selling memberships. There hadn't been anyone in that position for maybe a year, maybe even more. So it was a bit of a mess. We had a new leader and we were in a historical building and making a decision to move out of the 19th century and into the 21st century. So there was a lot of change happening. And I very quickly went from having to earn the members' trust, having to build sales, to then building a team because we really started to grow, to then transforming the entire membership model from a strictly a numbers base, which no one could understand why they had to pay this amount for this size of company, to something more value based. And what I really loved about that position was that the leader I had at that time really gave me, again, a lot of runway to figure things out, make mistakes, make changes. And I just had opportunity after opportunity as we continued to grow the organization and grow my team. Yeah, that it was, but it stemmed from growing up with my dad being a chamber president.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a couple of great leaders there along the way, but you also, I'm sure, did something to earn their trust and for them to be able to know that they could give you that runway. So it
Yeah,
speaks to your, yeah.
I worked hard. It was an interesting time. Again, I had young kids and getting into the office. This was pre any type of work from home remote days.
Hmm.
And, I really threw my heart and soul into building what was there, and it got recognized. One year after I had implemented the new membership model, we were recognized from the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives internationally as a really forward thinking chamber. And then it just kind of it grew from there. We really ramped up our event side. The team got built out, our leadership team. I was the only woman on the leadership team, which was another interesting experience for me, making sure that I found my voice and spoke up. But that team, I would say, was one of the dream teams that I've been a part of in terms of how far we were able to go together. And everyone brought strength to the table, and it took time. Believe me, it took time to build that trust and respect with the team. But once we got there, it's a special combination that you don't always experience in your working career. I hope people get to at least once, but it's not always the case.
Yeah. And you described a little bit, but let's break it down. What are those key ingredients that exist in a dream team?
So I would say the number one foundational piece is trust. If you don't have trust with the people that you work with, you're not going to go anywhere. It's going to be surface level. You're not going to feel safe in that environment to speak up, speak out, try new things, innovate. You're just really at square one. Um, that is the foundational piece, number one. Then I would say next is communication, because everybody has a very different communication styles and different ways that they communicate their message, and how they communicate is maybe very different from how you communicate. So then you get into this whole, well, if I don't have trust, I'm going to tell the story in my head that this person is actually trying to do this. And you make up all these stories. So communication is another piece, right? That having that common language with one another, understanding each other's communication styles so that you can actually receive the message they're trying to give you.
How does a leader, so let's say somebody's listening and they're like, okay, great, communication. In general, that makes sense. But how do we drill it down to kind of give somebody a strategy on how to make sure that their message lands with their staff?
So a couple things. There's lots of tools out there in the marketplace in order to help you understand different assessments and things like that. The one I've used in the past is DISC, and it helps you understand what your communication style is and then how to recognize other people's communication style. So as a leader, being self-aware of how you like to communicate and your natural style to be out there. If you're aware of that, but then you can also identify the other person's, you can modify how you're sending that message so that the other person is actually able to receive it. And when I first started with these tools, because again, when I first had my leadership position, I had none of these things,
Yeah.
and right, so I was like flying blind. I don't know, but when I started using these tools, I would actually pull out the profile of the person before I went into a conversation with them, whether it be our weekly check-ins or a performance conversation or a difficult conversation, just to remind myself and refresh myself how that person communicates and likes to receive messages, so I could alter my style to have a more beneficial conversation in the end, like a better outcome.
Yeah. It's interesting that you brought up DISC. Like there are some different DISC assessments, but extended DISC is one that you and I both use. And I had Markku Kauppinen on the podcast in a previous episode. So if people are interested in more information on that, I'll include a link in the show notes. But thank you for bringing that up. So you talked about communication, and then you also talked about trust. What else needs to be there to create a dream team?
I think clarity on the goal and clarity on expectations. So someone has to set the tone, someone has to set the direction and where everyone's going to. And then you need alignment on that team so that everybody can get to that place. If you've got everybody on their own agenda and they're not aligned, or they have their own personal agenda of what they want to accomplish, it's not going to be a dream team because you're not all rowing in the same direction. We used to say, make sure you've got the right people on the bus, or the right people on the plane, that we're all in the right seats and we're all going in the same direction. So I think that alignment piece is another, clarity and alignment is another components to creating that dream team.
Yeah, and I like that analogy because it kind of brings in the idea that even though you have a destination, sometimes you have to take some detours or you're like a little off track and then you have to course correct. What have you done that has helped teams you've worked with or teams you've been in course correct?
Okay, so one of the techniques that I use is action planning. And that can go everywhere from what do we want to accomplish in a year? What are our goals? And then breaking that down into manageable bites. So quarterly action plans, quarterly targets, so that we have a common document to work from and talk about. And I think it's really important to keep reminding people about, what we're doing here and where we're going and how are we going? Because also, to your point of course correcting, if you have a tactic in mind of how you want to get there and you get a couple of months into it and it's just really not working and not giving you the results, then you do need to have flexibility to drop that, change it, and move on. So if you're not having those conversations broadly as a team, then it's going to make it very difficult to get to your destination or where it is that you want to go in that period of time. And I also think it's important to have those conversations so that you create an atmosphere where everybody knows also what everybody else is doing. There's no sort of like, I have no idea what the marketing team is doing, but I'm in sales and I'm going to go do this, right? Like there needs to be that openness and transparency on what's happening, because then again, it brings more understanding, and it also can bring more ideas to the table about what is working or what's not working and what can we do differently to make it better.
Yeah, I love that. With action plans, it's interesting because some humans are really, really good at setting a plan and then following it, and some are really not good at it. Do you have an example of a team that was really kind of broken or off track?
Yeah, I do actually. So I had a client once that needed the alignment, asked for the plan and the clarity and the how of where they were going. So we put all that together and then, left it to the team to take it and run with it. They didn't necessarily do that. They didn't follow it, right? It was sort of like, okay, great, check the box. We've done this. We've put we've got it in place, but nobody referred back to it. Nobody checked in with it. And so it really became loose. And then what was the point? Like, why did we go through all of these steps and collaboration and agreement? Were we just going through the motions? And so, that went on for a little while. And then I was able to come back in, pull them back in to what are we doing here? What's working? What's not working? And I know that some people really do fight that structure. Like they just want to be. I think you need the structure to bring, again, clarity. If I go back to when I was at the chamber, I was invited into the board meetings, and I didn't know what to report or what the board needed to report. I'm like, yeah, we're doing good. The sales are good. Things are up. But then, we had more structure that was put in place so I could go in with confidence. Like, yeah, they're up. This is the reason why they're up. And this is what we're going to do to keep them up. Like it's that planning piece. And I think whether it's a board of directors or a shareholder in the company or even the CEO or whoever you're reporting to, having a little bit of that, I think is just important to take the company where it needs to be, to take you where you want to be as a leader.
Yeah. Well, and even elevating your own profile potentially, if that's important to you within the company. I know when I was first in leadership, people asked me to do some reporting on stuff we had never reported on before. And I was like, but my team's working really hard. Like they're working their butts off. What do you want this report? What's it even going to tell you? And it's like, no. You got to, again, transparency. Tell people what you're working on, what you're doing. Yeah. Love it.
It might seem redundant, right, to do that, but can't you see? No, they can't. You do need to tell them what's going on and tell them often. And if you have that structure in place to fall back on so that everybody, again, is aligned to it, it just makes your life so much easier.
How would you describe your leadership style?
My leadership style. I would say it's authentic. Who you see is what you get. I'm very positive, optimistic. Sometimes I need that, like, people recognize me for that, but I also need somebody to check and balance me because I think everything is great, right? We can take this problem and we can solve it and fix it and move it forward. So I'd say optimistic. And I'm also a very collaborative leader. I do value input from others. And I also I don't need all the credit. I want other people to be able to step up into their own and have the confidence to make the decisions that they need to make in order to progress and move their work forward. So it's definitely not about me, it's about them. I think that's shown more in the latter part of my career.
That's fair. I think early in the career, people are just trying to figure out what am I supposed to do here, and then they go from there. So, how does your style that you just described influence how you guide other leaders?
Hmm. So I think my style really helps other leaders to build confidence in what they need to do. So I'll give you an example of another client that I was working with, and she had recently got the big job. She was top dog at work and hadn't had that type of responsibility before. I mean, it was a big job, national, lots of moving parts. And she said to me that she needed somebody on the side to just bounce things off of because it is so lonely at the top as a leader. And so it was more like what it helped her with was validation, talk her through some things so that she could have a sounding board and not appear weak, I guess, in the eyes of, say, the board, who she was reporting into. And so it really, my style of like, let's explore that. Let's see what that sounds like. What do you think? What might happen next? And just being able to coach somebody through that, I think by making it not about me, it is about them. That's how it influences, I think, my style as a leader.
Yeah. Can I ask you an uncomfortable question?
Of course.
Okay. Um, do you have a story of when you've maybe kind of screwed it up? Or you thought you had it, but then you didn't have it?
Yeah. Okay, which one do I start with? Carrie?
We all have lots of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I've got a couple. I'll share this one. I was working with this woman and I totally respected her. I thought she really could go places, and I I think I pushed her a little outside of her comfort zone and a little bit too much, and that kind of backfired for sure. I learned that. And I think it was because I'm so driven, and in the disc style, I'm a high D, and I just make decisions, move quickly. I want to get it done. And she was the opposite of that. And so it unfortunately didn't work out in the end. And that's one I regret, because I really still really respect her and think she's amazing. But I think maybe my drive got in the way of that.
Okay. Well, you answered my next question, which was awareness did you gain from that experience? And you already identified that. So, what would you say to other leaders who have potentially staff who don't work at the same pace as them?
Well, patience is what I have developed over my time. Patience, and also, I guess, open conversation with them, right? Like, I will call my own self out when I realize I am moving really quickly, or I'm really excited about something and I want to like push it on through. And so, to other leaders, I would say that self-awareness piece is so big, because you've got to look at who's around you. It's not about you and succeeding. You now have to get that team to where you need them to be. And so it's it can be quite humbling to change, right? From like an individual producer, just like, for example, in sales, right? So you're hitting your numbers, you're hitting your targets, you're moving on, you're amazing until the next month. And then, but when you're a leader, now you've got to get everybody else rowing in that direction and producing those results. It's not about you to produce them. And it's really, I think, been challenging for me to recognize that, embrace it, take a deep breath, and set those expectations and clarity so that we can get to the destination that everybody can get there.
Well, and you're touching on another interesting part, which is getting momentum going. And I think that can be a challenge for particularly revenue leaders, but maybe all leaders actually. How do you approach that?
Getting momentum.
Hmm.
So, okay, let me think of I'll think of I've got a couple of different ways to get momentum. I think people generally, like who I've worked with, they want to work towards something, right? Like they now everybody is working for their own reasons. So, I mean, I do certain activities with my team to also uncover that. So what motivates people? Why are they working? What's it for? Because there's that individual response. But I do think if people can have the clarity and the vision about, okay, where are you going? And then let's all figure out how we're going to get there. I think that can really build momentum. And with my teams over the years, I do training days with them, because I don't think we get enough training, especially in the leadership realm. So, training job specific, but also as a team and building that team, I think that also helps build momentum. Like, you're investing in your people as you go along. And then energy, bring in energy to the table. Like, we can do this. Make people believe. Let's get her done. Yeah.
Give them hope.
Yeah, right? Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't set people up for failure. Let's and celebrate those milestones, right? Celebrate the all along the way so that it becomes, I guess it's like, instead of leading with punishment or fear, it's leading with positivity and celebration.
Hmm.
I mean, people are motivated by both, or can be motivated by both. I lean towards the positive side and the encouragement side.
Yeah. I think it's been working for you. So,
Okay.
what other ingredients have we missed from a dream team recipe?
I'm going to throw mindset out there as well. So, and when I say mindset, I think about our comments there about putting the right people in the right seat on the bus. And sometimes in my experience, the team needs some adjustment in terms of the players on the team. It's really close to sports analogy when you think about it, right? That there's players have different strengths and you've got to build them together. I mean, we're in Stanley Cup finals right now. So, there's going to be a whole other shift to those teams. And when I think about like hiring, I really do like hiring for mindset and attitude because skills can be taught. And so
Yeah.
if you have somebody on the team that doesn't have the mindset that they wanna be there, that they can do it, that they enjoy what they're doing, probably not the right fit. So again, mindset I think would be one of the things with the dream team component.
Well, and you mentioned, or in the bio, I mentioned that you support with how to handle difficult
Mhm.
conversations. So that sounds like a difficult conversation that leaders potentially need to have. What's the difficult part that comes before it's like over?
Um, so I think I always say when you're working with me and we get to that sort of it's time to go part, it's not going to be a surprise to either of us because we're going to have conversations all along the way about what's going on, what might need to change, and what you're going to do to make that change. And one of my colleagues actually said to me that one of my superpowers is that I can give feedback to people that makes them want to change. Like they don't feel like it's a negative thing. It's like, yeah, okay, let's do that instead. So I think it's having the courage to have those upfront conversations along the way and not let it get to a negative space. And I have let it get to a negative space and earlier on in my career, and it's really uncomfortable for everyone. And I think, it is having that courage to address it and to say, "Hey, maybe this isn't working out. What should we do about it?" So yeah, I think it's having those conversations early or ongoing and giving people the opportunity to change, right?
Mhm.
Times, uh, it has made a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a leader earlier in my career who was like, okay, what parts of the job do you like and what parts of the job do you not like? And when I said out loud the stuff I didn't like, we actually realized that I needed to move into a different role.
Wow.
It was cool. It was really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. And it was not a negative thing. It was actually a positive thing because I had outgrown the role I was in actually.
And look at that,
So,
the trust you had with that leader to say that, and
yeah.
then, wow, they found another spot for you, right? Like, it's
But
not
But they had to ask, right? They had to have what was probably a difficult conversation because they maybe noticed something wasn't working or wasn't right. And I was like, "Thank you for asking that. That felt good."
right? It doesn't have to be, like, a negative outcome at the end. It can still be a win-win.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay, and so we're going into all the dream team stuff. When a leader is looking at putting people in the right seats, as you said, what are some team dynamics that they probably want to look for or create?
Hmm, good question. Let me think about that. I think, every team when you're building it is unique, and looking at what the team needs to accomplish or what needs to get done, you need the skill set of those people. There's also, are they a fit with the company culture? And then are they a fit with, like, if you have existing team members, are they going to be a fit within that team? So I think there's multiple components that leaders need to consider and look at. Not everybody wants to work for a company that is driven by, I just want shareholder return. Some people are, right? They want to drive that revenue. Some people want to work for a company that has um, more community-based values or more philanthropic values to align there. So I think looking at that bigger picture of what is the culture here at the company, then okay, you've got your skill set and how will they fit within the team? And there's ways you can do that with different like interviewing techniques and an interview program to make sure that there is some fit there. But I do think that's important because it needs to be right for everybody.
Mhm. Yeah, we spend a lot of time on recruiting and hiring and interviewing, and you want to know that it's the right person.
Yeah. And like, it can get desperate sometimes. I've gotten desperate sometimes. And I had someone say to me, "Are you sure you want that person like showing up?" And I'm like, "But there's nobody else." And again, there's that patience piece that comes in because it really does make a difference. Once you have brought somebody onto that team, they're yours. It's time to, it's,
Yeah, there's no looking back.
no,
What leadership experts do you follow, or where do you get an inspiration?
oh my gosh. So it's kind of funny. I have a bookshelf in my office and it is full of leadership books, like everything. I read everything. I've read Simon Sinek. I've read Kim Scott with Radical Candor. I've read Patrick Lencioni, Five Dysfunctions of a Team, like his whole
Hmm.
series. I read as much as I can. A lot of Harvard Business Review as well. So I like to take in all of this information and then kind of apply it to what I've experienced and sometimes apply it in real life, see how it works. But yeah, I read a lot of books.
What is one of your proudest accomplishments?
Oh my goodness. Proudest accomplishment. Maybe I haven't had it yet, but I'll share one. I'll share one from the past that actually I was really proud about. When I was at the chamber, we partnered with Junior Achievement and we created an event called Lemonade Day. And it's an actual event that happens throughout the States primarily, but there are places in Canada as well that host it. And it is an event that basically exposes children to entrepreneurship. So they got to run a lemonade stand. And we went out into the community. We had chamber members on board. We had hundreds of kids participate in this one day of Lemonade Day. And they got the skills that they needed to just run a business. And so I was really, really proud of that to be able to impact so greatly within the community and impacting youth on things that are possible, right? Running a business. So I'd say that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
And then we will see what is to come for
Yes.
Rebecca.
More. There's more.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to your younger self stepping into a leadership role for the first time?
I would say I can use the term mentor, but it could just really be a senior person that you trust that has maybe been there before, that is willing to just talk to you about what's going on, helping you check yourself. Am I crazy? Is this actually happening? What do I do in this situation? I I remember I searched, like I always kind of wanted a mentor. I wanted someone to kind of guide me. And I didn't really I didn't really find that early on in my career. And I know that now there's so many programs that you can access. There's so many coaches that you can access out there. That I would just say be vulnerable and get some support because you don't have to do it alone. And it can be very lonely.
Yeah, that's good advice. What are you working on right now that you would like people to know about?
So I'm actually working on a leadership summit. One day
Oh,
event. Yes, yes. And it's coming up in February 2027. So I am putting together the program and the speakers, and I am super excited about it. More to come, but it will be in February. Yeah.
excellent. Excellent. In Calgary?
It's in Calgary. Yes.
Okay. Well, we will watch for that. And what's the best way for people to find you?
They can find me. I have a website is romeowhiskey.ca, or they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. They could also email me at rebecca@romeowhiskey.ca. So that's probably the
Perfect.
easiest way to get a hold of me.
Okay, perfect. We'll put your links in the show notes. Rebecca, thank you for all of the different perspectives that you shared and the ingredients of a dream team. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Carrie. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for everyone for listening. And please do like and subscribe wherever you lead with engagement.